Have you ever wondered, what if my swimming pool was haunted? Night Swim dares to answer a question that no sober person has ever asked. Hi, I'm Matt Hall. Let me watch that for you. Catchy theme song, yeah. Yeah. Just a little disclaimer before we get started. This is my first ever movie review. I'm a full-time music and gaming streamer over on Twitch. I just thought it would be funny to recap horror movies in case maybe you don't like watching horror movies but want to know what happens, or you don't want to spend your money or time. I'm going to try to keep these short to like 30-ish minutes. I don't know. I've never edited before in my life, but I'll probably be spoiling the entire movie. I spoil everything in my entire life, so I don't see why this would be any different. You're probably just watching this in bed anyway, so good night, you sweet angel. I know what you're thinking, though. You're going to say, Matt, there's a million movie reviewers on YouTube. What makes you any different? Night Swim opens on an establishing shot of a suburban home in the summer of 1992. Great year. I was one. And from the pool emerges this toy boat. It's like this little wooden toy boat with a motor that kind of just propels it around. And it is so loud. And this little girl wakes up. Her name is Rebecca. And she wakes up. She goes to her window and is like, that's my brother's toy boat. My brother's sick. He's got hospital equipment at home. I'm going to get his boat. He's going to cheer up. It's going to make him feel better. So she goes and uses that pool cleaning pole thing with a net on the end. I've never had a pool in my life, it shows. And she's reaching for this toy. It's now sunk to the bottom. And she kind of just gets yanked in from like an off-screen force. But you know, like with the sound effects, it's very sinister and something horrible is about to happen. She's like swimming around. She gets to the edge of the pool. And then the boat kind of re-emerges again. And she's like, well, I'm already like soaking wet. I might as well just kind of like swim and grab it. She almost reaches it and then gets yoinked under. She comes up and says, help, help, help. Yoinked under again. And she's never seen again. Ooh, Night Swim. And that is the opening of the movie. So we're starting off with a thrilling cold open. We are then introduced to our protagonists of this film, the Waller family. You have Ray, the dad. He is a retired third baseman. He was a professional baseball player who is ill, and his illness is actually what caused him to retire. You have Eve, mom, who is a mom who loves her kids, and she just got a job doing admin work at a local school and is getting a degree online. I believe she got the job so that she would have insurance to help cover these medical bills. Izzy, the daughter, the older daughter, she's just cool, I guess. And then Elliot, who is the younger brother, who is a loser, nerd. He's kind of established as having a hard time fitting in. The family is getting this tour of a house. It's kind of designed to be easily accessible. There's no stairs. It's first floor. There's apparently emergency contacts like ready to go 24/7. It's close to the hospital. It's implied that the family's moving because of the dad's illness, and they're sort of happy with it. But clearly, you know, the dad is sitting there kind of like not loving it. And as they're driving away, they drive past a for sale sign, and what do you know? It's the only house on the block with a haunted pool. And the family kind of immediately loves this house. Like the kids run up the stairs and enjoy it. The realtor lady explains to the mom that the previous owner had it for a few decades. So it's kind of implied, I believe, that it's like present day from 1992 till, I don't know, today. And dad is out by the pool. And then they kind of have this like pool moment, mom and dad, where mom goes, I used to be afraid of pools. And I was kind of expecting like it's ever since the accident happened. You know, like a dramatic, like pool related, like my character arc involves pools. But she just says my Navy dad pushed me in a pool when I was 3 in order to sink or swim. And I guess I swam. And then that's kind of it. I was like, oh, okay. So you were pushed in a pool once. All right. And then dad is like, yeah, I used to pretend I was rich when we used to swim in the public pool. So clearly they have a lot of pool memories, which is so relatable. And as they go to leave, the kid's like, I'm hungry, I want to leave, let's go. Dad sees a baseball on the pool tarp that was covering the pool, which is full. But that's, I guess, you would just leave your full pool if you move. And he goes to reach for it and also kind of gets yanked in the same way homegirl Rebecca got yanked in at the beginning. And he just kind of sinks into the pool. Sure, he's got like the tarp, but the tarp is segmented, so it's not like one big tarp. It's like a little strip of it. And he kind of has like a That's So Raven vision of the future. He, you're nasty. And he sees himself at bat slapping a grand slam. I don't play baseball either. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. But, it's like a vision. It's not a memory. It's like an aspiration. It's a dream. He's recovered. The announcers are going, hey, it's Ray. He's back after a year hiatus, and he's slamming grand, baby. After the vision, he kind of just remembers that he does know how to swim. So instead of just sitting there sinking, he just kind of goes, whoop, 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 and climbs out of the pool. The realtor immediately is like, let's call an ambulance off screen. And they end up going to the doctor. At the doctor's office, it's explained that Ray's illness is getting worse. They thought it was plateauing. So the doctor, kind of grills him and is like, are you doing physical therapy? And he's like, I'm throwing the ball around. You know how baseball players are. And she's like, we need you to do some low impact exercises, walking, yoga, swimming. As an audience member, that, I'm on the edge of my seat. So I'm like, don't. The other two, yoga, walking, not swimming. And so, that's kind of like the tipping point. Ray talks to Eve and says, like, I don't want to feel like I'm living in a hospital. I want the second house we looked at. It's got a pool. We can do water therapy at home. And that kind of convinces her to go along with it as well. So they end up buying the haunted pool home. We're then shown a scene where mom is dropping the kids off at school. The siblings have the classic, like, see you later, butthead. Bye. Smelly feet. And the mom ends up walking the son past the baseball team. And she's kind of like, oh, are you trying out this year? He said, yes, this is my year. Dad says I'm going to hit my growth spurt. All these things are like kind of without outright saying it. He's like scrawny little kid. He's just trying his hardest to get by in this world. And he's not an athlete like his dad or as strong as his sister. He's a nerd. And us nerdy boys know what it's like. Sorry. And meanwhile, older sister is at her locker and some boy approaches her and goes, how tall are you? Lift your hand up. And she does, and like I'm sitting here thinking, is this about to be like a Mean Girls, like, do you want someone to butter your muffin moment? But he just is like measuring her, and he's like, wow, like you got a nice wingspan. Come join the junior varsity swim club. And like, ladies, I know we've all been there. I can't tell you how many times that's worked on me. Oh, let me see your wingspan. Come join my JV swim club. It's like oldest chick in the book, dude. Nice try. Back at home, the family is then cleaning their decrepit, nasty old pool that the dad fell in. And the dad is reaching into the main drain at the bottom of the deep end underneath the diving board. And he's like all the way in, and you just hear a squelchy, and he pulls his hand up, and of course it's just gaping gash that's just like gushing blood, and their family's like, oh my god, are you okay? And then at that moment, like brown dirty water comes out of the drain, and audibly the family just goes, ew. And like I don't know, I guess like I just kind of felt like if my hand was bleeding and I just got stabbed, I'd feel like I'd be more concerned with that than like water in a pool. But I don't own a pool, so I don't really know if that's how that would happen. The family then kind of has a, like in a horror movie where you call like a paranormal expert or like an exorcist. They kind of have that, but it's a man who knows about pools. And he kind of just is like walking around very smugly going, wow, this is a spring. This is attached to a spring. This is spring water. I've only read about pools like this before. It's supposed to be great for your skin, healing properties, geothermal heating, whatever that is. He's like going on and on about how special this pool is. And then kind of has like a weird moment where he's very much in the foreground and they're kind of blurred in the background, mom and dad. And he has like a monologue about like our reptilian brains. We've evolved from the water, but something keeps calling us back to it. Almost like if we can conquer it, we'll conquer death. And then he does the silly little trip on the diving board and then leaves. Now the pool is full of water, delicious magic spring water apparently. And the family goes for their first swim. It is daytime. The movie ain't called Day Swim. Last I checked, this ain't Day Swim, so I'm not really worried about it. And they play this game, kind of like Jax, if I'm remembering Jax correctly, and I'm not going to look this up before I explain this to you, of where you bounce that ball and like grab all the jacks before the ball bounces again, or something like that. Only instead of any of that, it's you take some quarters and you throw them in the deep end, and you have to dive down and pick them all up before you drown. I've never played that, but you know what? I've done a whole lot more for a whole lot less. If you want to drown for 75 cents, I don't have a leg to stand on. And we are jumping from one swim scene to the next. Once this pool is full, we are diving in, baby. So it is nighttime of the same day, I believe. Mom is getting all stressed out. She's like writing insurance checks while taking her online courses to get her degree to be a special ed teacher. And she says, I'm so stressed. I'm going to go for a night swim. I love it when movies do that kind of stuff. It's a night swim. And that my first watch, I was very concerned because I believe it's in California. The movie was shot in California. There are such few nights where it's like would be okay to swim in a pool and not be freezing. But I realized on a rewatch that the pool guru mentions this geothermal heating. So I guess that's good enough for me. I'm not really going to look that up. So while she's swimming, she's kind of, stroke, kind of turning her head to catch a breath. One of her head turns, the camera kind of mimics her eyesight. She sees what looks like her husband, full on like demon possessed, like black vein, outside the pool. And she's like, back in, and then, just double take, and he's gone. And she's like, Ray, you silly guy, like, stop, you scared me. And then she like looks around, he's not there. It's like, typical my husband. Oh my gosh, always putting on full demon makeup and menacingly standing outside of the pool. Oh, Ray. But no one's there, so she goes to check on her family. And then she kind of just like writes it off. Her husband's in bed, and so he's like, oh, I've been here. I'm not creeping by the pool, hun. And so she's like, we're gonna get a pool cover. Great, I'm gonna write it off as just me being a silly, stressed head. The next morning, the family wakes up to find their they have a cat's collar in the pool. And they don't know where the cat is. They assume he just kind of ran out. He'll be back when he's hungry. So the little boy is calling for his cat and brings out a can of cat food. And I only caught this on a rewatch. It's the subtleties. It's water-based food, but it just has water on it. And it's like, water, pool. Shortly after that, Ray goes back to the doctor, and you do get that classic scene of like, dumbfounded doctor looking at the chart. I've never seen this before. You're improving so much. I've never seen such a drastic improvement over such a short amount of time. And the mom's like, we changed our diet, like you said, and we've done water therapy. And dad, deadpan to the camera, goes, we have a pool. If you didn't know, they do have a pool in the movie Night Swim. After school that day, little brother comes home and is like, can I dive for quarters in the pool, Ma? And she said, go ask your father. And dad is getting his swole on in the garage. He's like bench pressing, watching old videotapes of himself back when he was playing ball. And bro is like, hey dad, like, will you swim with me? And He's like, yeah, I'll join you in a minute. Like, I want to get my sweat on first. I'm about to Hulk out. Don't tell your mom. I'm letting you swim by yourself for a bit. And he takes a quarter and draws a little smiley face on it and says, throw this one in there for me. I'll come and grab it when I'm, I guess, done working out. So bro goes to the pool and he's just kind of sitting at the bottom of it, like cool, underwater, swimming. And a quarter pops in, boop. And so he pops up and goes, oh, Dad, you're here. And this is the third time in the movie, I didn't mention the other ones yet, where someone has like emerged from the water saying something to someone who they think is out there, only for there to be nobody there. It happened with Rebecca at the beginning. She saw her mom. She's like, sorry, Mom. Oh. It happened with Mom of this movie going, Ray, you silly goose. And then he's not there. And now we have brother going, Dad, oh, you're not here. So he goes back down to grab the quarter, and in plops another one, and then like another one, and another one. And eventually one lands on the drain, the same drain where the dad sliced his hand. And it's it's implied that it's like a sinister, there's something weird about this drain. It's not just draining water, it's draining your life. But nothing really happens with that. He just kind of picks it up. I thought maybe, it would be like stuck, or like he would get like maybe a bracelet or something like stuck and would be like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. But when he picks it up, he hears a little girl's voice and it says, hello. And you kind of see from his point of view under the water, you kind of see her standing there. And we as the audience can tell it's Rebecca, our day one girly Rebecca, standing there. And little brother then swims up and for the fourth time of this movie is talking to someone who isn't there and says like, I got them all in one breath, like implying that he got all the quarters. But I was sitting there like, who are you talking to? Like, I know you heard this little girl and you can see the silhouette of a girl through the water, but does she know your family's game about throwing quarters in the water and drowning if you don't get them all? I was not aware that this was a universal game. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. I just wouldn't have assumed that a stranger came into my yard and started playing a game that my family likes to play. He ends up hearing her voice again, but it's from the side drain. You know how all pools have that, like the side one that like frogs and stuff get stuck in? And he hears her going, hello, have you seen my mom? My name's Rebecca. Very just like articulate. My name's Rebecca. I'm lost. You know where my mom is? And she's like, I found your toy. He had an action figure. And then it's very reminiscent of Stephen King's It, where Georgie's kind of like reaching his hand in for his boat. And instead of Rebecca Summers, this little girl, it's this like monster type person that grabs his hand and he's like, don't. But unlike It, he's fine. So he just kind of swims out of the pool and goes to his mom and is like, Mom, Rebecca Summers is here and she's being weird and she's also like a demon. And the mom goes out to look and she doesn't see anybody. And Dad talks to Mom later and is like, what if our son's a loser? Our son talked to a dead gecko for 5 months and maybe just made up that there's like someone in the yard, or maybe it was like a neighbor's kid. They kind of like brush it off and then kind of double down and are like, well, let's make our loser son cool. Let's have a neighborhood welcoming party, meet the Waller family, come swim in our pool. By the way, we have a pool. And that also got me thinking, the daughter has a line that's like, we'll be the pool family, which I'm like, okay. But does no one else have a pool? You're not shown anyone else's homes in this. So maybe they are the only people on the block with a pool. The whole thing was built on a spring, but the spring wasn't like pool sized. The spring is shown later in a flashback and it's like this swampy big old thing. So I would assume like anyone could have a haunted pool, and maybe they all have maybe this is a sequel, maybe other people are being haunted by a pool as well. And we just didn't know. Heaven forbid the public pool all of a sudden is haunted. I shudder to think maybe the JV team at school is really all haunted as well. Maybe that's a sequel. There you go. Call me if you need that screenplay. We're now shown a scene where the family goes to baseball practice and we're introduced to Coach E and his son Ty. And Ty is like kind of implied to be a foil to little brother. Like Ty is popular and good at baseball, whereas little brother is as established a no friends baby loser, who's just trying his best. And, Ty, of course, smacks the ball out of the park, nails it. And little brother kind of hits the ball, which is, I guess, like a big moment for him. But, it's like a little fuddy-duddy. And dad, passive-aggressively, wow, great job, son. You've got it. What an amazing, try hitting to the other side of the field next time. Like a very, undercut sentence, And if I wanted to watch a movie about a dad being disappointed in his son, I would just watch a home video. But thank you, Night Swim. And then Coach E is like, why don't you go ahead and show us how it's done, Ray? So Ray steps up to bat, swings and misses. Is like, I'm rusty. Swings and misses again and falls down. And they're like, oh, like, you're sick. Like, don't do this to yourself. But then Ray, dad, has this memory of the vision he had. And he thinks about the pool. And he smacks the ball, and it breaks one of the it's like a stadium light, even though it's like a public baseball field. And everybody's like cheering, and they go, yes, you're amazing. And this man loves his pool. Back at home, it is date night for mom and dad. I have no idea where they're going. They're never shown. I don't even know if they're really going on a date. They just say, we're going out to dinner. Feed yourselves, kids. I don't even care. So, big sis is like, little brother, I'm having someone come over. It is for swim team practice. And if you tell on me, I'm going to put a Tide Pod in your fish tank. He's like, Jesus, okay. She ends up inviting over her crush, and they play Marco Polo, which, if you've seen the previews, it's kind of established already, which is a very classic pool game. That is finally a pool game I'm aware of. And so she's like, Marco Polo, and he gets out of the pool, and they're playing music on a speaker, and it kind of gets all distorted and then stops. And then she keeps saying, Marco, you have to say Polo. And then a voice kind of replies like, Poo-doo. And she doesn't think anything of it. She's like, oh, my silly guy, like mother like daughter, always dating the silly ones, doing demon stuff. And it kind of shows like it's very like, it almost looks like you're squinting. The camera is like you're squinting, almost like implying that she's cheating, by the way. You can't open your eyes during Marco Polo. But it kind of shows this like bloated, almost like corpse man going Polo. And so we're kind of aware that she should not be doing this. This is clearly not the boy she has a crush on. It's clearly something horrifying. And she goes to touch it and it's gone. And then she kind of opens her eyes and is like, what the, where? I thought there was someone right there. She like looks down and it's someone who's just standing at the bottom of the pool, and it does not have the silhouette of the boy she has a crush on. And then she like puts her face in the water to look at it. And as the audience, you're like, oh my God, I would be out of here. And then it pans up from that, and it's like right behind her and it says, Polo. And then she turns around all quick and it's gone. And that like pisses her off. She still thinks it's the boy she likes. And so she dives down after it and she swims for, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. And it becomes this like dark, like abyss, almost like the endless ocean. And she sees these like air bubbles come up. So she knows like someone's like right there. And one big air bubble comes up to the camera screen. And once it pops, like there's the bloated corpse man's face. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he grabs her leg. And she's like, ah. But then she just kind of flaps her little arms and gets loose. And then she starts swimming up. And it kind of, the shot looks like if you chisel a hole in ice and like went down under the water, it'd be like, you would see like the light from the ice hole. It's kind of like that, but it's the pool. So the only place that she can emerge from the water is just that little bit of pool. And so she does, though. She's fine. She's scared. And then she kind of gets gaslit by the boy that she likes. He's like, why didn't you say fish out of water? She's like, something grabbed me down there. He's like, are you sure? Maybe you just got like stuck in the pool filter. And they did have like a robot like that, I don't know what you call them. The little robot that cleans your pool. It's attached to like a giant tube. So he's like, maybe you just got stuck by the pool cleaner. She's like, yeah, I guess. Okay. And then he kisses her. Parents come home. She's like, you're not supposed to be here. Get out of here. He skedaddles and says, I'll see you Saturday. And she's like, what Saturday? He's like, the pool party. She's like, okay. And then he leaves. I found that to be kind of a weird way to phrase it. Like, I'll see you Saturday, because Saturday is the next scene. It is the next day, actually. So it's kind of a weird thing. I would also be like, what are you talking about? See you Saturday? Do you mean tomorrow? Yes, we do mean tomorrow. And little brother is knocking on sister's door and goes, I know you saw something. I saw you get out of the water. You were all scared. And sister's like, no, I got my foot stuck. I don't want to talk about this. He's like, I know something's happening. And she's like, what's more likely, that the pool is helping us or haunting us? And he's like, why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? And she, being the older sister, is like, mom is happy, dad is recovering. Like, we can't tell them about this. It's better to just keep this a secret. So they both decide to not say anything to their mom when she comes home with groceries for this party, which we smash cut to the pool party. The realtor lady's there. Coach E and Ty are there. I guess the wife of Coach E. And she brings an entire watermelon. And mom is like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so nice. But I'm like, a whole watermelon? Like, I have to cut. You brought me something to, I have a chore now. You brought me, why don't you just rub dirt on my carpet or something? Like, at this point, why don't you cut it at home? Put it in some Tupperware and bring it to the party and say, we'll pick up the Tupperware later. Or we'll just bring home the leftovers. Like, don't make me cut a watermelon at my own party. Thank you very much. I thought that bugged me way longer than it should have, but it still does. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm still getting a little heated, if I'm being honest with you. But it is kind of set up to where she has something to slice. And it does that horror movie thing where, she's like cutting and it's getting like closer to her fingers. And you're like, oh, is she gonna slice her fingers off? And is the pool gonna eat her fingertips? And that never happens, but I do appreciate a little bit of, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, it's a little nod to a horror trope. I like that, this movie's got some funny moments like that. At this point in the story, we have 3 things going on at once. Number 1, little brother is in his bedroom with the VHS camera, filming the pool party and watching it like a hawk. Number 2, we have dad, who is talking to the more popular Ty, and is like, we're gonna play chicken, I think you call it, where you put someone on your shoulders and try to push someone else off of another person's shoulders. And 3, mom is in the kitchen getting the backstory of like what happened to this house. So dad and Ty are in the pool playing chicken, and dad keeps getting pushed further and further back into the deep end. But at some point, Ty pushes the kid off of the other man and they win. He's like, all right, Mr. Waller, we won. Like, we can go, you can let me go, and we can swim, and I can eat that watermelon. My mom brought the entire whole watermelon that my mom so nicely brought to your neighborhood welcoming party. But at this point, dad is standing right on top of the demonic drain, and this like, almost, like the smoke monster from Lost is just, and he's like full on ghost pool possessed. He's pool dad now. And then ends up like stepping back further and further as this kid is like, let me go, and is submerged under the water now, being held down by this man. Little brother, who was watching the whole thing, is like, oh snap, something's going on in the pool. Coach E dives in, grabs his kid, mom gets the dad out. They both end up being fine, and Coach E basically tells mom, don't bring little brother to practice anymore. He's not really on the team anymore. And the lady who thought it was a great idea to bring an entire watermelon to a party gets all pissed that her child almost drowned. And is basically like, don't ever talk to my family again. So, we're kind of ruining relations with the neighborhood left and right at this point. However, I will give this movie credit where it is due. They immediately get in the car. Mom is like, we're out of here, dude. I don't know where we're going to go, but something's weird about this pool. You've been acting weird about this pool. Kids are scared. We're going to go. And so, at this point, I'm like, that's a very rational thought for something supernatural going on, especially with a haunted pool. So I give credit, like, I would have done the same thing. But as they're driving away, dad starts getting all black veiny again and like coughing, and it's like the pool won't let him. The pool's not gonna let him get away that easy, you know? So they put him in bed and he's fine then. And he's like kind of like an addict. Like, y'all got any more of them pools? Just one more swim. I just need one more swim. So like clearly he's a bit snapped at this point. And that's a good reminder that if you or a loved one is addicted to pools, seek help today before it's too late. Mom then immediately drains the pool, which again, I have to give props, is the most rational thing a person getting haunted by a pool would do. And I can't believe that sentence makes sense to me. We get an obligatory Google research scene. She looks up the history of this house, and she ends up finding Rebecca's mom's current location, which apparently is not too far, but far enough, if this makes sense, based on the amount of time that passes when she goes there and gets back. So mom immediately gets in the car, drives to this stranger's house, and this older woman opens the door, Rebecca's mom. I don't know if they say her name ever. I'm sure it's like in the Google search. She goes on and on about how wonderful her son is. He's doing such good in Washington. Mama's boy. I wish he'd call me more. I love my son. And Eve, our mom, is like, what about your daughter? And she's like, what do you? It was just me and my son. She's like, I didn't know you had a daughter. I Googled it, and she's haunting us. And we end up getting kind of the backstory of the pool. It was originally a spring that grants wishes, but in order to kind of grant a wish, it has to take a life. We're shown an extended opening where the mom is actually watching the daughter get attacked in the pool, and that was kind of her trade-off for her son to recover. She sacrificed her daughter. Again, mama's boy. And then in present day, she's retelling the story, and she's doing that Billie Eilish, like, black crying thing. You know, like the water's like seeping out, but it's black. And she has this fountain next to her, and it's turning black, and it's seeping over and spilling onto the floor. And it spills onto the mom's purse, which is important in a second. She does just like a creepy smile of like, it'll be over soon. Your husband will get his wish. You're kind of implying like someone's going to croak in a second, but your husband's going to be a star baseball player again. So the mom runs back to her car. She's driving. She pulls out her phone, and it's all wet. And I kept thinking, like, I hope she got Apple Care. It is now nighttime. The kids just got dropped off back at home, and they look for their parents. They call their mom. She doesn't answer because, again, her phone is covered in goop. And so sister goes to the garage. Brother pours a glass of water, and it does like a Jurassic Park ripple thing. And then he hears a cat meowing. So they end up splitting up. The brother puts his glass on the counter, goes outside to check out the meowing. He sees the shadow of his cat on a like big flamingo kind of inner tube that you can lay on that's just floating in the pool. And so he slowly crawls to the edge of the diving board and reaches out and barely gets a hand on it to like turn it and pull it in closer, and he turns it and it reveals that there's no cat on it, even though, I mean, like in real life you just kind of see that there's no cat on it because when you're standing you can look at an inner tube, it's like right there, but he grabs it and turns it, there's nothing there, and then the camera pans up just a bit and it's like that same watery demon thing from before, and he just goes yak, and it pops the inner tube and yanks it. And apparently this boy had a grip on that thing because he just gets yoinked in instead of just like letting go. He's in there. And then at that point, the pool cover, which is crank operated, starts cranking itself, and it starts to close while the boy's like, I can't get out. Sister hears all this commotion, and so she runs through the kitchen. And at that point, when she runs outside, it's shown that his little glass of water that he placed on the counter, it vibrates further and further, and then slips right off, shatters. And you know what's going to happen with that. You just do. So as she's out there, she's like she's cranking the pool cover, but it's too strong, and she lets go until mom comes in to save the day. Boom! Mom grabs it, uncranks it, and like breaks it so that it doesn't crank anymore. And she says, you run inside, call for help. I'm diving in after your brother. We're gonna make this work. Mom dives into the pool for just a second and kind of sees that it's turning into like that deep, dark abyss, ocean looking thing from before. So she immediately gets out, grabs the hose that she used to drain the pool initially, ties it to the diving board, and jumps in. At the same time, sister runs through the kitchen and, of course, slips and falls on the water that spilled and has a shard of glass embedded at like the palm of her hand. And there's no need for any of this. Of course, we do like the of course, you see her pick it out in blood, and then almost immediately though she hears a noise and it goes, and then it's kind of never brought up again. It's like when Dad sliced his hand before too. It was like here's a gross hand injury, and oh, something else is going on. What's that over there? Never mind. So we just had to get one more of those apparently. So thank you very much for that. So now we have two things happening at the same time. We've got Mom swimming after son in this dark, dank, dirty abyss, and we've got Daddy versus daughter brawl because Dad is full on pool possessed at this point. Daughter tries to call 911, but her bloody hand sort of prevents it, but Dad also just kind of slaps the phone out of her hand. But I digress. Dad basically says, little brother's not cut out for this world. He ain't strong like we are. He's the loser nerd. So it's clear he's made his choice on who to sacrifice so that he can recover and be a big-time baseball player again. Big Sis ends up running away kind of screaming, and we get like a comedic moment of literally possessed, veiny Dad going, Marco. Like, it's a joke. It's funny. I wouldn't have minded more of those. I like a little bit of that. And eventually he finds Big Sis in the garage. She's not doing a very good job hiding, but he finds Big Sis in the garage, and he goes, you're supposed to say polo. And if I may, actually, for just a moment, I did kind of want to say, technically, I believe he should be saying fish out of water, because she's not in the pool. However, I am willing to suspend my disbelief in a movie about a haunted pool. I just wanted the rules of Marco Polo to be upheld. Thank you. But he ends up just kind of leaving her in the garage. She says this will be over soon. So he just kind of shuts the door, but it doesn't even lock. He just kind of leaves her mid. He was like pulling her hair earlier, and then just like, whatever. I'll see you at dinner, I guess. And now we're back to Mom. She finds little bro floating around down there and is trying to swim out of this dark abyss. She grabs him, got a little flashlight, and then all the spirits from pool lovers past have come and they're grabbing at her, but they don't really do much. They grab her, there's like a tussle, she drops her flashlight, she gets all turned around, she just keeps swimming. She swims away from them and she keeps swimming. And then we see our day one girly, Rebecca Summers, and she says, and she holds out her hand, she opens it, and she has the quarter with the smiley face from before, and it floats up. And then the camera does a cool turn of like, oh my gosh, you were swimming down when you need to be swimming up, lady. Again, like the true hero of this story, Rebecca Summers, without saying a word, saves the day. The mom swims up, brings the son out, starts doing CPR, and of course, Pool Dad appears behind her and does the movie, like, I'm gonna choke you and lift you with one hand. And she's like, no, but our kid, oh no. And he's like, he's weak. And Big Sis comes from behind with the trophy bat, which I have not mentioned until now because there was one throwaway line from the beginning of this movie that mentioned he had a trophy bat on the day that she was born. He hit a home run with it and he made it a trophy. And she smacks him with it and he starts puking up all this dark, dank, dirty water. And then kind of has like an epiphany moment of like, maybe being possessed by swamp water isn't the best way to live. And so he kind of pukes up more, starts getting normal. He's like, it's me. Cool. They take their son who wakes up and they all start to leave. Like, we got to get out of here. And then the son starts having these like convulsions the same way the dad did when they tried to leave originally, and puking up water, and the pool is filling with this dark smoke again. And the dad kind of realizes, like, I gotta sacrifice myself to save my family. So dad walks into the pool, and his final words to his loving family are, "Don't look back." Which is something the mom said earlier in the movie, but I guess I just figured, like, I love you guys. Would have been just like a little more fitting, but I guess that's just me. And so dad swims down into this dark abyss, and once he disappears, sun gets better. The climax of the movie. Our closing scene of this film is the remaining family members standing over the pool, watching it get filled in with dirt, saying dad would want us to stay so that no one else gets haunted by a pool. And the final little shot is dirt being dumped into the pool, almost like watching dirt fall into a grave over a casket. It's kind of symbolizing dad's resting place. All in all, I think Night Swim is fun. The acting is actually really great. There's a lot of good chemistry with the cast. Some of the shots are really cool. It's not really like cheesy enough to be like a B movie, like a so bad it's good. I kind of wish it leaned like a little more into like the ridiculousness of it. It's a haunted pool. Like that's kind of silly in general. And I like the Marco Polo thing. So I think I would just like laugh at it a little more, have a little more fun with it. But all in all, I'm glad I could watch this for you. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I've never done a movie review or edited a YouTube video in my life. So it means the world if you've made it this far. If you want to smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. You can let me know if there's a horror movie you want me to watch, or really any kind of movie. I just kind of love horror movies because I was bullied a lot as a kid. I do live stream on Twitch. I'll sing you a song. I'll play some games. Huge shout out to my patrons. You can join the Patreon if you want. We do a movie night every second Sunday of the month. And I post like pics and music stuff ahead of time. But really, thank you again for watching. And hopefully I'll see you on another episode of Let Me Watch That for You. Bye-bye.